after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Weber, first shot, second game.
And Pete Weber, with 7 strikes in his first game victory, starts impressively. Now, John Mazza, here is a professional we all appreciate. He's a 27-year-old left-hander from Mount Clemens, Michigan. Finally got that first title.
Mazza, playing the deep inside line, has the same fate as Dave Ferraro did in his opening shot on the right-hand lane. Ferraro drifted high, left a 3-6 spare for the righties. John Mazza, the same fate, the 2-4 for the lefties. A little straighter at the spare. He's improved his spare making.
John has back-to-back final telecasts this year, so this is his 3rd of the year and only 5th overall. As a 2nd seed, he won the Florida Open in Winter Haven, beating Mike Alvey and Mike Edwards. Now in the U.S. Open, he was seeded 3rd. .47.
John Mazza, a very persistent young pro out here. He struggled along and learned for 7 years. Started really improving last year, as you see his ball drifting high once again, leaving the 4-7. And he's really improved his power game, his spare game, and he's on the threshold of staying right near the top.
Okay, a little bit later, Bo will give the rundown on how they finished, especially the top 24. But with Earl Anthony on the scene, we must point out he had a great tournament at 13th, Mark Roth 18th, and Holman 20th. Ron Palumbi, who has had recent surgery, defending champion, finished 65th, but what an effort to compete.
You're right. Palumbi, the defending champion, won $80,000 last year.
Weber leading the 3-6-10.
Both these players products of the junior program. Pete Weber actually bowled his first 300 game at age 12. As you see his ball going high on the right-hand lane, he's quickly up with a low surface friction bowling ball. And Mazza started bowling at the age of 10.
Chopping the 3 off the 6-10 big error.
Uncharacteristic of Pete Weber, as you look through the back end pit area of the bowling lane through a plastic shield, he chops the 3 off the 6-10. He just decided to throw the slow hook ball at that spare instead of throwing the hard speed shot and paid the penalty.
Coming back from that error, his dad appreciates that. Juanita, his mom, is not here, can't stand the pressure, but she's with her mom, Grandma Delp.
The big curve of Pete Weber starts at about the 20th board, goes out to about the 4th board at the 45-foot mark, snaps out the 10-pin, a perfect shot.
Still no strike in his first match of the afternoon for John Mazza. 6-pin.
For all you youngsters out there, I said John Mazza started junior league bowling at the age of 10. His first year's average was 40.40. He's improved quite a bit since then.
Just to show you how cruel the tournaments can be, especially major championships, as we look at John Mazza's fiancée, Leslie Mendoza. Pretty.
Yes, sir.
That's not cruel. That's lovely. But the cruelty was for Brian Voss, Mike Alvey, and Emiletta Monticelli. They didn't survive the cut.
Very demanding lane condition. 240 players, just 60 cash spots.
All right. John Mazza of Mount Clemens, Michigan, gets his first strike. Yes, Del Valler next Saturday. They'll be at Bradley Bowl for the $160,000 Tums Classic. Windsor Locks, Connecticut. Pete Weber, Florissant, Missouri. He has a strike up, can cut Mazza's lead to 1. Little body English. The end of that shot. Here's Bo.
Thank you, Rich. Richard Wolf, a left-hander. Lefties always beat me, Richard, and I'm glad I'm not bowling against you. But do you prefer to bowl against the lefty Mazda, or how about Pete Weber?
No, Mazza or Pete doesn't bother me. I got to make good shots. I think I'll do fine.
Pretty confident for second round. Good luck, Richard.
24-year-old Richard Wolf. 28-year-old Pete Weber. Not that time, leaving the 10 pin. Had that doubled up. Of course, he wanted to jump on it. Very close second match. If you just joined us, the first match was won by this man. He shot at 227. Dave Ferraro, 215. There's a shot, Bo. Speed.
A lot of speed. And that's a shot that both of us thought he would throw at that 3-6-10 spare in the second frame, which he chopped and has allowed Mazza to have a 2-pin lead. Mazza can extend that to 12 with a strike here in the 5th. Big trouble. Cuts right through the middle as you see him. Very soft, playing around the 4th arrow. He's quickly up for that split, though, and he's just going for 2. Bad mistake, Chris, right there, pal.
Yes. He has been much quicker today on the approach in the past telecasts. Nelson, I'm just wondering, I know here's a guy with a big heart that just wants to win everything, and maybe he's trying too hard. I don't know.
I agree. Or he may have studied bowling against Pete Weber. He feels if he bowled very quickly against Weber, he will have an effect on Weber. You know, you can psych out your other opponent also.
Nelson, no wonder you won 17 championships, including a United States Open. You were a psycher supreme.
Well, I'd say, well, thank you, but I think it's more cerebral bowling. You study your opponents as you play, and if you find a player likes to bowl very quickly, as Pete Weber does, you slow him down. If a player likes to bowl very slowly, then you speed him up. Here's Mazda for the spare.
Okay. A little more collected on that shot. John Mazza. John, who has a philosophy of having learned from years of failure, gets help from Fred Borden and from a sports psychologist, Hugh Bray, as we look at Weber's use of the entire approach. Well, that was a strike in the 6th.
A long format, 56 games this week. There were 96 B.P.A.A. entrants, Chris, and in 1989, I started keeping track of the B.P.A.A. entrants and the pros. In the 1989, the entrants averaged 181, the pros 200. Last year, the entrants 188, the pros 208. And this year, the B.P.A.A. 96 averaged 193, the pros 211. About an 18-pin difference between the pros and the entrants.
Okay, and with that double, it's a 24-pin lead now. Wide world, we have a lot of it right here in Indianapolis, Indiana, capital city of the Hoosier State. From Michigan, John Mazza. He is trailing. He has a spare up. Shooting in the 7th. And 9.
Best shot Mazza had made so far in the match, the solid 9. He trails by 25 pins after this conversion. And watch the action as the ball drives through the 1, 2, and then the 5 is chopped straight off the 9. That's the left-hander's answer to a right-hander's solid 8.
With a victory and a 3rd place finish this year, John Mazza. On a roll this year, he describes what victory would mean.
Bo, that would mean I went the distance and I overcame a lot of things over the course of this week, and that means a lot to me to be able to go the distance this whole tournament.
Well, his distance is going to be 58 games if he doesn't get on the stick right here. He bowled 56 in the tournament, beat Ferraro in a roll-off. Now he's up against Weber, in trouble.
Well, that gives him 120 through the 7th, and that strike up there in the 8th frame. And up now with a double working 8th frame shot, Pete Weber.
It's the shot he talked about all week long. He's cut his hook down a little bit, even though it's a big hook for most players, and the ball breaks late. What I mean by that, the ideal spot is normally about 45 feet down the lane to break the ball to the pocket. He's going about 47 feet. The 6 goes around the 10. And if he changes his style and goes for more break, an earlier break, he becomes wild. So he's actually picking up his accuracy and has to sacrifice the solid 10s. Just a little quirk in his style at this bowling center, but he's been very successful at this center as he uses the full grip, just the tips of his fingers in the ball, a little reverse pitch in the thumb, tucks that pinky finger, spreads the index finger. He's ready to go.
Pete talks to his shots. Gets his strike in the 9th frame.
This shot for John Mazza is absolutely mandatory to get back in the match. Trails by 24, could cut the lead of Weber's to 14.
Leaving a 2-4.
Chris, you picked it up right at the start of the match. He's real quick, that he's fast with his ball speed, slow with his ball speed, nothing consistent. As you see him hitting the line here, and he's dug himself a real hole as he trails Weber by 24 pins, 1 frame to go.
And the winner of this match will go against the young man Bo interviewed some time ago, Richard Wolf of Arlington, Virginia. Leaders by rounds.
Hugh Miller led early, the lefty, in the high-scoring first 2 days. Mazda took over. Norm Duke, who's been very hot. That's 32 games of qualifying. Then Mazda and Thayer came around for the last 24, 56 games. That's just about the end of the tournament, Chris, for John Mazda.
Yes.
Best he can roll is 179. Pete Weber tooling along at a 204 pace. Doesn't even need a mark in the 10th.
But we're in April, and John Mazza with a victory and a 3rd place finish in the Bud Light at Sunrise, Florida. That's when he converted to 710. He has a long way to go. He had a successful year last year, earning $71,000 without a victory. It's not what he wants, though. He wants...
Oh, he's just like a baseball pitcher today. As Weber fiddles with the rosin bag, keeping his hands dry, has his game in the bag, so to speak. Mazda was just off in his timing.
Not on that shot, however. With a 179 for the popular pro from Clemens, Michigan, John Mazza. Leaving a 4-7.
And that's a winner for Pete Weber. He's going to go against the other left-hander, Richard Wolf. While we have a moment here, we'll talk about Pete Weber filling in on his suspension. He is taking a 6-month suspension after the Firestone Tournament of Champions.
All right, and they shake hands, and Pete, of course, will go against Richard Wolf. And now it's time for a bowling tip of the week. And with Nelson Burton, tour veteran Wayne Webb gives